to favor, but the formula is in such a way that only certain types of institutions can actually be showcased. So that needs to be fixed. As I say, it is essential for NIRF. Equally essential it is for Times and QS. I'll just give you one example. Now, internationalization is a very important parameter in Times or QS. Now you have opened up online education. Will Times and QS accept international faculty and international students taking online courses delivered either through Swayam or some of our own portals, and then accept that to be a parameter that can be scored on internationalization in their own ranking metrics, or will they still insist physical presence of faculty and students in their own campuses? Now, these are questions that we need to ask ourselves and move forward.
So when it comes to rankings, I have been doing rankings for about 4 years, and I actually look at data which comes from institutions. So initially, when we started actually looking at ARIA ranking and creating a framework, no such framework existed. I agree with the panelists and some of the suggestions which came that we have to actually focus only on the outcome. But when we started discussing with large number of institutions, the difference in outcome was very, very minimal. And in some cases, there was no visible, really good measurable outcome, which could be compared with the international. For example, if you really look at some of the international rankings when it comes to outcomes. So number of publications, number of citations is which we can easily answer. But number of patents filed or granted, yes, it can be certainly done. Conversion of patents or transfer of technologies to industry. Hardly any data which comes from universities. Or revenue generation through the commercialization. So these are some of the outcomes, But when you really start looking at these outcomes, the data is very low. Means the amount of data which you get is not really good. So then we actually went back, okay, still we have to evolve. And we said, okay, some component could be input-based parameters, some component could be process-based parameters, and certainly we have to stress on outcome-related parameters. So now, currently, if you look at NRIF rankings or other kind of rankings, they cover all the three aspects: input, process, and output. And it actually gives, this input and process parameters actually gives good impetus or encouragement to young institutions who don't have really great output to show or outcome to show. From those perspectives, yesterday also we were talking about some actually raised an issue related to whether we should have a separate category for emerging institutions, new institutions, So these input and process parameters actually help those kind of institutions. And if you really look at NRIF, the way it has evolved, initially there were only 2 or 3 categories. Now there are about 7 and 8 different categories which are there. Yes, it's a long way to go. We have to certainly learn, and we have to have our own model actually, and not rely on the Western model. Because what happens if we don't do our rankings and actually take our rankings internationally, we will be governed by the rankings like QS ranking or Times ranking, and they will start pushing their agenda. I don't know how many of you will be aware, in QS ranking, there is one parameter called as perception. And it has 40-50% weightage. So what is perception? What other people think about my institute? Now, who are the other people? Anyone could be the other. And I select the people. Means the agency selects the people. So now this, and it has a 50% weightage. Now you can easily game the system. So there are a lot of questionable parameters which are certainly there in ranking. And that is the reason we have to evolve our own ranking. And yes, it's a journey and we are moving in right direction. So we will take other questions apart from ranking. You want to add something?
I'll just address Dr. Pankaj Mittal's concerns. And I think she has raised the proper concerns since Heki is right now at the germinating stage. And she talked about what should be the perspectives of universities. And I think we'll come up with some good ideas. With the model which has been proposed, the legal institutions, the PCIs, the VCIs, they have all been included. I do not know how far they will go ahead. But as per the present proposal and also the NIIs, like I showed in my presentation also, I do agree that there should be a representation of AIU because AIU is so closely concerned with higher education. And during the past years, we have seen its very active role and we should definitely give it as a recommendation. One thing which I found missing, and that is why I did not even touch it, and I would like to have your comments also. That is, what about the funds? The funds, who will be giving those funds? I mean, will it be the UGC? Because somewhere I also read that it will be taken up over by the ministry. So when we are talking about autonomy, because the Heki is going to be a unified system. So this system should also be simple. And the funds where the universities are applying for different types of funds, many a times they apply for funds and the whole year goes away, the sanction letter is given and the grants are released at a very later stage. So this should be a very automated, because if we need results, if we need quality, then I think this should also be looked into. So maybe we can add these points also.
Next set of questions. Yes.
Yeah. May I now speak?
We have requested him. After that, you can. No, we have already, he's standing. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me an opportunity and wonderful presentations which you have given. I have some observations and some questions. One is the new education policy has been drafted before COVID. And 2020, we announced NEP. And post-COVID, the world has changed, to which I call it as beta mode. We are in beta mode. So much has changed, which needs to be captured and needs to be integrated into the higher education system in our country. And therefore, we need to think very, very differently even about the new education policy 2020, which we have announced. Number two, this is number one, we are in beta mode and therefore we will have to think very, very differently. And so many changes which we will have to capture and implement them. Second, I'll just finish within 1 minute. And second thing is, now, if the document accepts that Higher Education Commission of India is the topmost body, and if without its existence, if we are trying to implement new education policy, national education policy, by sending circulars and regulations, will that not create confusion in the minds? Because Heki will come and then they will again look at it differently within or outside, and then they will also try and implement it. That is going to create confusion. And therefore, I think, why can't we wait, or why can't we as a body tells the government of India, you first come out with Higher Education Commission of India and then let us implement, because there is confusion.
We got your question.
I'll just 30 seconds last thing.
No.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
Please, we got your question. No, we will give others.
Just 10 seconds I will tell. And we need to look at the rural areas where whether we will be able to implement that in the Gadchiroli, or tribal districts like Meghalaya, we need to think about it, rethink about it, and then give suggestions to the government.
Thank you.
Sir, my concern is about the teachers taught ratio. Earlier, we used to have the Ministry of Education. After some time, it became Ministry of HRD, Human Resource Development. We we considered, or we decided that humans are also production or agencies.
Yes.
Now we have again come back to Ministry of Education. And since my university is under the Ministry of Culture, Navanalanda Mahavihar, the subjects of culture and humanities and arts, we find very not meager number of students sometimes, most of the times. And we are told that since 1:20 should be there, so what should we or our institutions like ours do about there are no posts? And sometimes I have argument with the people at the helm of affairs in the ministry. They say, no, since there are not number of good students, good number of students, posts cannot be given to you. How can a teacher teach 16 subjects or like that, or two teachers only? So that is a very serious concern, and all of us, maybe except science and commerce, we are facing this problem. So I would like to know from you.
I will just answer. I will answer his question first. So basically, post-COVID, so in NEP, there is huge emphasis on using digital platforms and digital technologies and so on and so forth. And now with advent of 5G technology, and I don't know yesterday whether you checked or whether you read, now even the roadmap for 6G is also announced. So this was yesterday's, and actually basic pilot systems are in place for 6G. So there will be again further push for using technology or integration of technology within the education sector. And again, some of you will be certainly aware that Ministry of Education has created a new cell within ministry called as NETF. Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhe is the chairman for that cell. And this NETF cell is actually looking at the technology platforms required for NEP. The full form of NETF is National Education Alliance for Technology itself. And there are about now 20 people working in that cell to just look at what kind of technology platforms we will require for successful implementation of NEP. Alokji, you would like to add?
Velukar sir, I'll come to first your question. In 2019, NEP draft was floated, and draft was of approximately 160, 165 pages. And the policy was declared in 2020 on 29th July, post-COVID, 2020, 29th July, and the total pages were approximately 65. Now I'm coming to 1 year later. On 11th March 2021, यूनिवर्सिटी ग्रांट्स कमीशन ने एक रेगुलेशन अपनी वेबसाइट पे डाला जिसका नाम था एकेडमिक बैंक ऑफ क्रेडिट रेगुलेशन, जिसमें केवल 10 क्लॉजेस थे, जिसमें ये बताया गया कि बच्चा देश के किसी भी कोने से बैठ करके पढ़ाई कर सकता है, वो गढ़चिरौली में रहता हो, मेघालय में रहता हो, तमिलनाडु में रहता हो, कहीं भी रहता हो। मजेदार बात ये है कि एकेडमिक बैंक ऑफ क्रेडिट में 40% क्रेडिट्स आप ऑनलाइन रिसोर्सेज से अर्न कर सकते हैं, whether it is MOOCs, Swayam Prabha, Arpit, whatever channel you are going for, you can earn up to 40% credits from the online resources. Second thing, 70% तक credits आप अलग-अलग institution से ले सकते हैं। कोई जरूरी नहीं है आपके गढ़चिरौली में गोंडवाना यूनिवर्सिटी में अगर बच्चे ने अपना एबीसी में एडमिशन लिया तो ही इज सपोज टू earned maximum 30% credits, 70% he can earn from anywhere, from online resources, from JNU, Jamia Millia, any of the university. तो एक बात तो ये हो गई, 500 डिजिटल चैनल्स आ रहे हैं। लाभ साहब, आपके प्रश्न का जवाब दे रहा हूं, ठीक है? बैद्यनाथ लाभ जी नवनालंदा से आ रहे हैं। 500 डिजिटल चैनल्स आ रहे हैं और डिजिटल यूनिवर्सिटी का कॉन्सेप्ट आ रहा है, हब एंड स्पोक मॉडल आ रहा है, जिसमें देश के कोने कोने में बैठे हुए बच्चों को पढ़ाई की सुविधा मिलेगी और बच्चा अपने सुविधा के हिसाब से पढ़ेगा। उसको रात को 11 बजे का टाइम है तो 11 बजे बैठ के पढ़ाई कर सकता है वो। And I tell you, what were the basic objectives of the NEP 2020? Access, यानी देश में हर आदमी को हायर एजुकेशन तक की एक्सेस हो। इक्विटी, हम जात पात, कास्ट, क्रीड, लैंग्वेज, रिलीजन, इसका कोई भी भेदभाव ना हो, इक्विटी हो, राइट? क्वालिटी, आप कुछ भी पढ़ाएंगे नहीं चलेगा। द क्वालिटी ऑफ एजुकेशन इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, जिसको अब जाकर के लोगों को पता चल रहा है कि अगर आप परफॉर्म करेंगे तभी आप रिलेवेंट रहेंगे, नहीं तो बच्चा आपका लेक्चर अटेंड नहीं करेगा। एंड ऑन पेज नंबर 8 of NEP 2020, it is very clearly mentioned that the objective of this education policy to produce well-rounded graduates. एक बच्चा पढ़ाई करने के बाद फिर भी बेरोजगार रहे, ऐसा नहीं है। After graduating from any course, either diploma or degree or postgraduate or certificate, he should be capable of earning his livelihood. He should be capable of leading his academic life, professional life, economic life, financial life, or whatever he is doing. अब बच्चों को दास नहीं बनाना है। We have to come out of Macaulay's mentality, Charles Wood's mentality, and this India is a new India. That is why we call this education policy is going to serve all the requirement and necessaries. Thank you very much.
Okay, you have not.
Okay, yeah, I would just like to appreciate the concern for rural, people. Sir, I'm just appreciating your concern for rural people, how national education policy is trying to reach out to the unreached people, especially in a country like India, where we almost 68% population is living in rural areas. It's a real concern. But let me give you one example that while working in National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj, when we conducted training program and we offered up programs online, you'd be happy to learn that people from Mizoram and Nagaland, which were where this things were inaccessible, they went to the hilltops to find connectivity and they attended our programs. So what I'm trying to convey is that now people are motivated. People, 21st century is the century of knowledge. So people are, so demand side is ready. And as Dr. Jere mentioned that now we have come out with 5G, now 6G. So demand and supply, they are in perfect sync. So that will not be a constraint in future. This is what I wanted to just convey.
This is a quick response. Yes, we are all very empathetic to the fact that this HECI is going to be the prime mover of all the actionable agenda in NEP 2020. So the present hit and run mode of issuing guidelines, regulations, and asking institutions to do this, that is actually, misaligned to the concept of autonomy. So you're very right that now is the time that you should ask institutions to develop an autogenous model that aligns with NEP 2020 themselves, than giving these short-term regulations and guidelines. And once HECI is there, then it fixes the issues permanently. I fully agree with you. And at the same time, your question of, there are many things that have happened post-COVID, and we need to factor that. And that is why I always say that this NEP 2020 has a shelf life of at least 30 years. So it will definitely evolve itself as we move forward. And I just don't want to believe any university that comes and says, we have implemented NEP 2020 lock, stock, and barrel. No university can implement NEP 2020 just like that overnight. It is a vision document that is having a shelf life, as I said before, for 30 years, at least. So it is an evolving process, and universities will gradually actually achieve that. You're absolutely right. HECI is the need of the hour. On the second issue, a slight disagreement with Dr. Jere is the new institutions don't have a mechanism to reflect the progress that they are making in the existing ranking framework. And that is why I say, in your NEP 2020, you have clearly said there are going to be only 4 types of institutions: the Meru, and then the research universities, research and teaching universities, and then degree granting autonomous colleges. If that's going to be the 4 type of institutions that are going to exist, then your NAC or your NIRF must have clearly 4 different types of accreditation framework or ranking framework, so that institutions can relate better to one framework than all institutions. Because in NIRF, you are normalizing everything. So when you normalize everything, an institution that honestly progresses gets beaten by this normalization. So that has to happen.
So we will take last set of 3 questions and then we will conclude.
Yeah. Sir, I'm VK Ahuja. I'm Vice Chancellor of National Law University, Assam. There was a question which was raised by Madam Pankaj Mittal, and it was responded by Professor Nilima Gupta. It is with respect to legal education. Legal education has been dropped from NEP, though the broader principles of NEP are applicable to all professional education, including legal education. And Madam said that legal education is a part of HECI.
Yes.
But I just wanted to know if it has been dropped from national education policy. Is it a backdoor entry that you are just trying to bring in legal education? Because there are 4 verticals: standard settings and the grant and accreditation and otherwise. There are 4 verticals where you are making legal education as a part. Did you had a discussion with BCI? Because as a Vice Chancellor of NLU and as all the law colleges, they have to abide by the BCI regulations. And let me tell you that nothing has happened with respect to implementation of NEP in the legal education. Thank you.
Yes.
Sir, should I speak?
Go ahead with your question. Thapa ji.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I just wanted to have some observation on this Higher Education Council of India, whether it's means need of the time that has been envisioned by politicians or bureaucrats or academicians. It was so coincident, like in Nepal also, Nepal government is putting a bill of a higher education council. And maybe it's almost similar with the 4 verticals. That in Nepal's higher education history, the University Grant Commission is also not that old, and accreditation is only 10 years. I just wanted to know if it is a drive by the donor agencies, or in India having such a long history and then with so many academic institutions, it's a need of the time. Just wanted to, because in our case, sometimes as the General Secretary of AIU has mentioned, the universities are excluded when this bill is being prepared.
Last question.
Sir, sir, can I speak?
Yeah.
We are talking about national education policy, and most of the institutions in this country, I can say that they are trying to implement national education policy, and most of them have started. And while we are converting the humanities, basic science and commerce 3 years degree into 4 years, we don't find any issue in that, because this country is having 2 types of degree, 3 years and 4 years in undergraduate program. But while we go to the postgraduate program, the 1-year postgraduate program, when now students have started asking, because we have already implemented 4 years undergrad program, that there is perhaps no clear-cut guidelines from Government of India that how it will be considered 1-year postgraduate program. Most of the students are asking about that, whether it is being enlisted in, whether NET will be accepting us, whether GATE will be accepting us. So that question is coming. And second, we all are discussing about the credit banks, the credit transfer among the institutions. But there is no such clear-cut guidelines or policy that how it will be done by the institutions and the universities. Because being little bit in the premier institution in the country, lots of questions are coming, how we can get enrolled and how to get the degrees. Now, Alok sir was telling that the students can take, rural students can take 40% of the credits from the rural areas, then they can come to the university. But how they will come to the university? Who will be giving the degree? Where they will be enrolled? That I think.
Yeah, we'll
Those
just
policies
take up the questions one by one.
Yes.
We appreciate your concerns for higher education. Now, I'll just address this question which was raised regarding inclusion of legal education. You're right that it has not been included in NEP. And it's not been included. But regarding saying that it is a backdoor entry, I mean, since we are now going to have a new policy or a new bill which is going to come up. So in that we propose it, as it has been proposed, that BCI is going to be taken up. So this is the current situation there. And of course, if we talk about whether this creation of HECI, it is political or it is academic or it is due to donor agencies, I would like to confine my answer that it is a government policy. Because now it is the need of the hour and people are thinking that now we should have a unified policy which can take into concern all the regulatory issues, all the issues concerned with accreditation, all the issues which are concerned with standardization of education, and also the funding issues.
नहीं, there are two questions. पहले मैं आपको पहले क्वेश्चन का आंसर देता हूँ. 3 साल का बच्चा अगर कोर्स करता है, वो नॉर्मल डिग्री लेता है, चौथे साल में जाता है, तो उसको ग्रेजुएशन विथ ऑनर्स मिलेगा या ग्रेजुएशन विथ रिसर्च मिलेगा. और अगर 4 साल का कोर्स उसने ग्रेजुएशन विथ रिसर्च किया है, पीजी करने की जरूरत नहीं है, वो डायरेक्ट रिसर्च में एडमिशन ले सकता है, पीएचडी प्रोग्राम में ले सकता है. 1 ईयर का पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन कब आएगा? जब उसने 4 ईयर का कर लिया है, एंड इट इज नथिंग बट द कैलकुलेशन ऑफ नंबर ऑफ क्रेडिट्स. ये बात पूरी हो गई.
Yes.
दूसरी बात आती है कि बच्चे को कौन डिग्री देगा, कैसे देगा, क्या करेगा. ठीक है, देयर इज ए होस्ट इंस्टीट्यूशन जहां पर बच्चा एकेडमिक बैंक ऑफ क्रेडिट में अपना रजिस्ट्रेशन कराता है. आई गेस यू हैव नो प्रॉब्लम विद हिंदी इफ आई स्पीक इट.
Yes, I don't.
There's no problem. Otherwise, I'll start speaking in English. I love to speak in Hindi. That's why.
Yes.
The problem वही है ना,
Sir, that I understand.
Let me clarify because many of the audience might be interested in that. तो जो क्रेडिट है वो जहां पे बच्चा अपना रजिस्ट्रेशन करा लेता है, वो इंस्टीट्यूशन उसको डिग्री अवार्ड करेगी आफ्टर रिडम्पशन ऑफ क्रेडिट्स अर्न्ड एंड डिपॉजिटेड इन द एकेडमिक बैंक ऑफ क्रेडिट. और इसका पूरा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डिजी लॉकर पे बना हुआ है. अब वो मान लीजिए 10 इंस्टीट्यूशन से अपने क्रेडिट अर्न करता है, तो वो होस्ट इंस्टीट्यूशन के पास नहीं जाएगा. That will go to the academic bank of credit, and academic bank of credit will transfer those credits to the host institution. And अब दूसरा क्वेश्चन आता है कि उसको डिग्री किस चीज का देंगे. हो सकता है उसने ज्यादा साइंस के पेपर्स पढ़े हों, ज्यादा कॉमर्स के पढ़े हों, टेक्नोलॉजी के पढ़े हों, आर्ट्स के पढ़े हों. There is a very clear cut provision. The degree may be awarded under the name of Bachelor of Liberal Education or Master of Liberal Education. So I guess you understand, and your question is satisfied.
Sir, my question was if they are being allowed to do the research after bachelor's, 4-year bachelor's. So while coming to the requirement of eligibility criteria of masters in the recruitment.
That is under
what will be
pipeline,
their
madam.
status?
That is under pipeline because it will take time. This is quite a big transformation
Yes.
of higher education system in India. So it will not happen overnight. It will take some time.
Sir, another one question was that we all are focusing on internationalization of education, and my university, perhaps we are having very large number of foreign students in the campus. But the government is coming with any policy of making the visa policy or working in this country for the foreign students.
Yeah, yesterday there was an entire session dedicated to internationalization. I think
Yeah.
you should have attended that because we cannot answer all the questions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before I request Rajiv ji to go for concluding remarks, I will just share with you in 1 minute where we are heading and what we wish to achieve when we are looking at HICI or non-HICI or any kind of agencies. I have done a very small experiment in last 2 years. Whenever I go to colleges or institutions, I actually ask students why you come to colleges, and then I ask management or the owner of that college or the vice chancellor of that college that why you think students are coming to colleges. And the answers which I get are completely different. I will request you actually to do an experiment with your own institution. Many times, the leadership, directors, deans, vice chancellors, think students come to colleges for getting degrees or for academics or for studying. And when you ask students actually why you come to colleges or the campuses, the answer is completely different. It's for fun, it's to sit in canteens, it's to enjoy the life. And this is the huge disconnect which is currently happening. And we are actually certainly debating about what HICI should do and what, but whether our institutions, that's what I'm saying. You may agree, you may disagree. I am doing my experiment, and that is the reason I said experiment. Okay. So what we have to do moving forward is to actually request each and every institute what should be their vision or their for 2047. And I would like to just take this opportunity to request you all to start putting a vision document for what should your institute be in 2047. And when you will start this kind of an activity, you will realize the requirements are completely different because we are moving in area of personalized learning. And when the personalized learning gets center stage, all the requirements will certainly change. So now this was just my observation and I am sharing as a personal observation. Now I will request Alokji, Rajivji to go ahead and summarize. You have 10 minutes.
Well, I have 10 minutes, so I'll just hurry up. Honorable Abhayji, Nilima ji, Vedya Subramaniam ji, Alok ji, distinguished people present here, Pankaj ji, GD Sharma sir, and dear students, very good afternoon, very good morning to you all. I have been given this task to be completed within 10 minutes, and I will try to stick to my time. First of all, I would like to thank AIU for giving me this opportunity to be with you, be with this enlightened audience. I would also like to congratulate USTM for hosting such a grand event. Being a person from Assam, I would like to convey this to USTM people. Haq Saab, the Chancellor, the Vice Chancellor, GD Sharma sir, that you have made us proud. Every Assamia can take pride in hosting this conference here. So thank you so much. And very relevant topics have been selected here to be discussed and to be basically recommended to higher authorities. And our session was on minimum government, maximum governance. In fact, I was listening to one interview which was done long back with JRD Tata ji. And JRD Tata compared private sectors with PUC, public sector undertakings. And he gave a very good example that, if in my Tata organization, if one table is to be shifted from one end to another end, this shop floor manager or supervisor can take the decision. But if same decision is to be taken in government sector, file will go to manager, chief manager, under secretary, joint secretary, and maybe sometimes to minister. And by the time decision is made, requirement for shifting the table from one corner to another corner would not be there. So this was just one example. He suggested reflecting the bureaucratic traps that have affected our working. So it's very, very important that we now think of decentralizing, we think of some kind of convergence so that on-the-spot decisions can be made. Minimum government and maximum governance. As Professor Subramaniam mentioned, owner-led institution is ownerless institutes. If we rely everything to higher ups, we cannot take any decision at the lower level, at our level. Then, everybody's business becomes nobody's business. We leave ownership to the top, and even for our inefficiencies, we try to, point out at higher policies. So that is basically now is being covered in this system. We have now unified bodies. For long, Indian academic institutions have suffered from the multiplicity of regulatory bodies. We had many bodies, and there is an idiom that too many cooks spoil the broth. So I think it's a welcome thing that we are now having a unified regulatory body, HECI, and of course there are certain skepticism that is being now raised. It is NEP is still not final. It is a dynamic concept. It is still evolving. I term NEP as a revolutionary education policy, and at the same time, it is still evolving. So whatever suggestions that have come here, whatever suggestions our panelists gave, whatever suggestions you all gave, those I'm sure are being noticed. They are being noted down, and they will be recommended for implementation. So NEP is a dynamic thing, as Abhayji rightly mentioned, that Professor Subramaniam mentioned that no institution can claim that they have implemented national education policy fully. We are still a part of that transformational activity, which is happening across the country. And ranking and rating, many questions were raised on that. Still a lot of things are being thought of. Still, if there are certain scope, there is scope for improvement. We are continuing that, and all these learned people will contribute in improving or bridging the gap if whatsoever we have noticed. But still, a lot of things still to be done, and there is a saying that every system has certain flip sides. Now we have to focus on, as Professor Subramaniam mentioned, that ranking is pranking with P silent. So a lot of things may surface even at later stage. We have to go on improving. There is a flip side to everything. And I would like to stop because my time, still I have 3 minutes to go. I would like to give one very good example. While coming to this place, the venue of this conference, you must have noticed some shops highlighting, this boards, shop open, open shop. Did you observe this? There are some shops on the roadside which have a signboard, shop open, open shop. I was wondering, when I was in Guwahati for about 7 years, I worked with NIRDPR, and during my 7 years time, initially I wondered what this open shop open is. But then I learned that government has come out with this, with a regulation that near the highway, no liquor shops would be there. So they immediately covered these liquor shops, alcoholic beverages, with a curtain or some kind of barriers, and they put a board, shop open, open shop. That conveyed the message. All government intentions failed miserably, and these people are continuing with their business without any problem. So we have to come out with such policies which are not there just for the namesake. We have to also identify the gaps or weak links which some people can take advantage of. So we need to think in those directions also. While working with all good intentions, we also have to identify our weak links, which we can cover up, which we can improve in times to come. As I repeat once again that NEP is not a static thing; it's a dynamic thing, and improvements are always possible. With 21st century is the century of knowledge, and with so many knowledgeable people around us, I'm sure we can come out with a wonderful policy which will actualize our, which will help us in achieving our vision of making India a Vishwaguru. I would like to thank once again for. I would like to thank my chairperson for giving it 10 minutes, and it's 10 minutes now. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much. And once again, I thank USTM and AIU for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. We had a very interesting discussion. Sincerely appreciate. So we can close the session now here. Thank you.
I thank all the dignitaries, the panelists for this session. Thank you, everyone. Now we may just proceed for a short tea break, and we will start the next session at 11:30. Thank you.
আমার এই ওএসডি কি স্পেশাল অফিসারের নাম কি ছিল? তানবীর। তানবীর লগত থেকে যাওয়ার জন সাহিল বড়া। সাহিল বড়ার কন্ট্যাক্ট নাম্বার আছে? फीडबैक फॉर्म दिया अभी मैं देखा स्टूडेंट देगा नहीं कर दिया ये मयूरों का दिया ना मयूरों दिया हरी दिया मयूरों दिया लकी सब नंबर ठीक है सर पूरा प्रेजेंटेशन होगा क्या? हाँ 21 पेज नहीं वो जल्दी जल्दी कर लेगा कोई नहीं इसको खाली आप प्रेजेंटेशन मोड में चला दीजिए। अच्छा ये कहाँ पे दिखेगा? ये मेन पे तो नहीं दिखेगा साइड वाले सब में दिखेगा सब में दिखेगा इसमें भी चलो ठीक बढ़िया ये मैं निकाल लूँ ले कॉपी कर लिया आपने? कॉपी कर लिया था थैंक यू आप ये देखिए ये हाथ में लेगा ये कब स्टार्ट करना है? अभी ये बोलेंगे स्टार्ट करेंगे ठीक है ये आप दीजिए ठीक है ये लिख लिया वो आएंगे जो प्रेजेंटर है उनको बुलाएंगे तो मैनेज कर दीजिए। এবার প্রেস টু করা না ওকে অন করে দিই
Whose side is it? Yes. Good, good. Okay. Okay. Good, good to say, good to say. Okay.
ডায়েরি বিচারে মুক্তার কাছে কোন ডায়েরি
Hello.
টুল বানানো টুল দীপাঙ্কর স্যার ফোন লাগা নাই
Hello, check. Hello, check. Hello, check.
Oh, Mukti. देखो, communicate. Pani madam. Pani madam.
Thank you.
Okay, अभी next session में.
ये तो कैम्ब्रिज वाला
Cambridge वालों का।
লাইট তো জ্বলাই থয় না আপোনালোকৰ ওপৰত কাৰোবাৰ হাতত দি দিলে হ'ল। হে? Any hall management volunteers are there? Two of them kindly report to the stage. Hall management volunteers. ঠিক আছে অনলাইন